Okay. Sorry, my ball fell away. I didn't know if it was recording. Since a lot of people don't seem to understand the idea of naming your child after yourself, I looked up some articles to try to help you. So we say first a little backstory. The tradition of giving a child the name of his parent, technically known as a patronym, goes back several centuries, when a child, usually a first son, was named after a parent, usually a dad, as a symbol of familial fealty. Generally, the junior or third or fourth status came with certain privileges and expectations around inheritance and or taking over a family business. Originally popular among the upper class, think Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island. The trend trickled down to the masses, peaking between the two wars and starting to phase out by the 1960s. The 60s is when we started to see the concept of individualism. New generations were rebelling against their parents' traditions, says Jennifer Moss, founder of the website babynames.com. Ross says the advent of therapy played a significant role in breaking the chain of generational naming. Therapy led to a greater interest in the emotional well-being of children, and there is this new idea that it's best to give children their own identity. 50 years later, and the children and grandchildren of the individualist movement view naming their children as an important act of self-expression. We see this with celebrities whose super unique baby names are an assertion of their own brands, as well as with regular people who agonize over winning the baby naming game to the point that some are even paying professional consultants to get the job done. Census data from the 1950s shows that 33% of boys and 25% girls had a top 10 name. Today, that number is less than 1% for both genders. Further proof of unique names are the new normal. Other reasons for the near extinction of a junior reflect our evolving social landscape, the decline of extended families, the rise of single motherhood, and the most basic fact that a lot of traditional practices have fallen by the wayside. That's not necessarily a bad thing, since we can look at the decline of patronymic naming traditions as a significant break from our patriarchal past. Sheila Embleton, a linguistics professor at York University, says, "For a long time, the family line was male and women came in and out. The fact that women no longer feel the need to honor thy husband in this way speaks to the rise of gender equality, as does the warning of a practice where the superiority of male offspring is baked in. Now seems like a good time to note that Donald Trump named his firstborn son Donald Jr., who named his first son Donald Trump III. Which is not to say that naming a son after his father is an inherently misogynistic act. Certainly there are examples of daughters named after mothers. Ivana and Ivanka is pretty close. Moreover, the most compelling reason to reconsider naming a child of either gender after his or her parent has more to do with prudence than politics. When two people in the same family have the same name, their information can be easily confused. People just look at names rather than the SIN numbers, said Toronto accountant Molly Coster Cameron. It can also lead to credit mix-ups and even intentional fraud, where a parent or child will obtain credit under the person's information. This is probably not why Bay and Jay opted for Rumi and Siri over Bay and Sean Jr. Still, it's nice to know their considerable assets are protected." That's the end of the article. But for y'all to say that it's so strange for my father to have named his son after himself, it's really not strange at all. If you look at the history of men naming children after themselves, it's fairly normal. And especially in the South, it was very normal for us.